All right. Got it. Share. All right. So welcome. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. So anyone who's watching this, they can join us. Just click on the WhatsApp link in the description, and then you'll come in the WhatsApp group, and the link is posted there. All right. There we go. We're going to be watching this video. Share sound. Okay, Mahaprabhu, you ready?
I'm ready.
The
Is the sound coming through?
Was a place where we distributed a lot of books.
Okay.
And we were there day in and day out. And some of the people who were also there day in and day out, the employees, they didn't appreciate our presence there. And some of them were antagonistic even. And some of them, on occasion, caused bodily harm to some of the devotees who were distributing Prabhupada's books. And in retrospect, I can understand why they were agitated and why we irked them to the extent that we did, but they, of course, had no access to our motivation and what we were really about. In my mind, it was an awkward place for Prabhupada to be coming. There were
Was
so
the
many
sound
books
still there?
distributed there,
Yes.
and it was auspicious in that regard, but there were, in ISKCON terminology, there were demons there also. So Prabhupada got off the plane, and I'm thinking, I've got to protect Prabhupada. Who knows? One of these crazy guys here could run up and throw something at him, or who knows what, because they had done things like that to his disciples. And so I was standing next to Prabhupada, kind of protecting him from the crowd in my mind, and we were walking towards the door to go out onto the curb, and the access kind of funneled down, and then to go through the door, only one person could go through. And here I was like preoccupied with this idea that I'm going to protect Prabhupada and get him through the door safely. And Prabhupada just went like this, with his left arm, and I was standing on his left side. The next thing I can remember, I was at the back of the crowd, everybody's in front of me, and Prabhupada was in the car. And the devotees were ushering him off to the temple. And it was very mystical to me, because I thought, here I was thinking, I'm protecting the spiritual master, and he's showing me I'm protected by Krishna. And I can protect you also.
In Chicago, the airport there is called O'Hare International Airport. And it's spelled O-H-A-R-E.
This sounds like Tamal Krishna.
So Prabhupada told his leading book distributor, Tripurari Maharaj, go to the airport manager and tell them that they should rename the airport O Hari Krishna International Airport. And this was an airport in which our book distributors were so aggressively distributing books that every day there was confrontation between the guards at the airport and the book distributors. So the management of that airport hated us. And still Prabhupada made his best book distributor go to the manager, and Tripurari Maharaj went there and said to him very seriously, you should rename your airport O Hari Krishna International Airport. Why did Prabhupada do this? Was he trying to have fun with his disciples? Prabhupada, he took every possible opportunity to somehow push forward the idea of Krishna consciousness. His idea was that everything belonged to Krishna. Everything.
Who's speaking?
As really meant to be glorifying Krishna.
This is Tamal Krishna speaking.
Oh. in order to
Sabah,
help
that's
prepare for
African American.
Prabhupada's arrival, Govardhan, president of Detroit, and the brahmacharis went ahead to Chicago to help fix the temple up a little bit. We had a real crack cleaning crew from Detroit. Govardhan hated dirt. The Detroit temple was always spotless. It had white floors, white staircases. So we came there, and I remember the doors flying open to the vans, floor machines coming out, and everybody got to work and scrubbed the place down, made it really clean. We built a little desk and a seat for Prabhupada.
Yeah, so fine.
His desk was a sheet of plywood and some 4x4s. I built it. They had a room for Prabhupada, very simple room, just a bed, chair, desk. He lived very, very simply there.
I got to wait outside of Srila Prabhupada's door because I was his bodyguard. And every time Prabhupada came out the door, I'd offer my obeisances. His foot would come down right by my face, right? And then it'd go, and I thought, oh, I wanted to get the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee, because we had just started that Guru Puja program every morning a few months before that, and we were praying the lotus feet of the spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. So I thought, I need those lotus feet. I have to have those lotus feet on my head. But being near Prabhupada was quite an intimidating experience. So they asked to have initiations. They brought us into the room. And I was in such a state, I didn't know what he was saying or what I was doing, but I was just very conscientious that I was with a pure devotee of the Lord. As a matter of fact, when I walked into the room, and this was the only time I was probably alone with Srila Prabhupada, I walked in the room, I offered my obeisances, and when I stood up, his eyes were like fixed right on my eyes. And just for a second, I looked into his eyes, and the most incredible thing that ever happened to me with another human being occurred at that moment, in that I had this overwhelming realization that he knew everything about me. And I felt so shameful. I felt like I do not deserve to be in the room with this personality. And it was also, there's no sense in trying to be pretentious, because he knows anyways. So don't try to pretend to be something that you're not. But those eyes, it wasn't like looking at me like you are such a fallen soul, but it was this look of infinite compassion, and almost like he understood my suffering. And all of this happened just like in a megasecond. And then I couldn't look any longer, and I looked down. But I knew, you must bare your soul to the spiritual master. There's no sense in trying to pretend, because you can't cheat the Mahabhagavad. So then Prabhupada gave me the Gayatri mantra. And then he said, so, are you chanting your 16 rounds? And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, and are you preaching Krishna consciousness? I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I'm a Sankirtan devotee. I go out on book distribution every day. And then he said, always preach Krishna consciousness. And I said, thank you, Srila Prabhupada. And he said, okay. And then I said, I had to muster up all the courage that I had within my being, because I was thinking of those lotus feet. And they were just sitting on the Vyasa, and Prabhupada had his dhoti pulled up to his knees, and his feet were right there. And I said, Srila Prabhupada? And he said, yes. I said, Srila Prabhupada, could I touch your lotus feet? And he looked at me and he smiled and he said, that is not necessary. And I went, Jai Srila Prabhupada. I offered my obeisance. I went out, I felt so stupid. I couldn't believe I asked that question. It was so trite, So I went out and I told Sir and Vaish was there and Pragosh, and they all cracked up and they said, Uday, you are such a nerd. Can't believe you did that.
The
Who
first
is
temple
that
in
devotee?
Chicago was
Narrator?
on Halsted Street. It was a storefront, and that was run by first Rudra.
Oh, it doesn't say Narayan Prabhu who that devotee was.
He
It's just,
mentioned his own name several times, but I didn't catch it.
did anyone catch it? Rupa Manjari Prabhu, did you catch the name? Probably not. Okay.
Okay.
His name is Uday.
Uday.
Oh,
Uday.
I didn't
Udayananda.
know him.
Okay. Anyways. Uday. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Uday.
Okay. Let's continue. Prabhu's Jai.
Das and his wife, and then later Bahulasva. That temple closed. At that time, I was temple president in Cleveland, and Bhagawan decided to centralize his zone, so he closed the temple in Chicago and pulled all the different leaders back to Detroit for meetings to try to determine how things would be managed. And I kept saying, you know, how can we neglect Chicago? Chicago is the biggest city in the zone. We can't close Chicago. And then one day Bhagawan just slammed his fist down and said, damn it, Govinda, just go to Chicago. So we went with a couple of brahmacharis, and then we were collecting and doing some preaching, and then the traveling rock group was kind of disbanded by Prabhupada, and they came to Chicago. So we had a lot more people there, and searching around we came upon this former YMCA building.
We were in the old YMCA. Actually, it was the old black YMCA from segregated times. And it was a rather rundown building when we got it. We had done a lot of renovations. So one of the main things we did that year was totally redo the gymnasium into a beautiful big temple room with side balconies and a huge altar and everything. And actually, Sri Govinda was the inspiration behind the aesthetics of it, and I had organized the work. And when Prabhupada arrived and first sat on the Vyasasan there and looked at it all, which for the time I think devotees will remember was quite gorgeous, Srila Prabhupada said, only devotees could do this.
There's a special darshan Prabhupada gave us just the library party in Chicago with Satsu Maharaj. It's when we had first started the work in America, and we were eager to tell Prabhupada about the success, but we were mostly wanting to hear from Prabhupada how he wanted us to proceed. It was a whole new experience, getting these academics to take the books. So we came in with pens and paper and all ready to take lots of instructions from Prabhupada. And we shared with what we had done so far, asked for guidance, and Srila Prabhupada just simply said, you do your best and Krishna will help you. And that was it. And at first we were stunned, we were waiting for him to say more. And then we realized, oh, this is a message. Srila Prabhupada's letting us know that he wants it to be done, and that if we just try to do our best, Krishna will give us the intelligence what to do, you know, and how to do it. There's a message that stuck with me for a long time. When I'm dealing with complex situations, I realize that it doesn't really have to be approached in such a complex way, that somehow if we can just do our best, then Krishna will compensate.
Hare Krishna.
So during the Guru Puja, I remember some brahmacharis, they had developed a kind of boogieing, you know, doing rock dancing. This was going on during Guru Puja. And so all of a sudden, Prabhupada, like a conductor, like a maestro, he just stopped the Guru Puja cold, you know, in an instant. And we're all kind of frozen in place. And then Prabhupada gestures to the picture of the Panchatattva in the distance, how their arms are upraised. And he says, dance, dance like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're all corrected, you know, because we're all getting into disco dancing.
Can you pause it for a second?
Twisting and boogaloo and shingling and, you know, whatever.
Narayan, he just said that something during Guru Puja. So they were having Guru Puja when Prabhupada was there.
What's Guru Puja?
I wasn't talking about Guru Puja.
It's Guru Puja.
Right. What do you mean?
In this video that we're watching right now, he just said that in the middle of Guru Puja. So
what year
they
was
were
it?
having, huh?
What year was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Oh no, he knew we were doing Guru Puja. I mean Sri Guru Charanapadma.
Yeah.
He knew we were doing it, but he had said not to. But he didn't stop us from doing it. We did it for years.
Okay.
He didn't stop us because we wouldn't stop. What can you do? You give an order, a spiritual master gives an order, it's on the absolute platform. If he says to his disciple, you are breaking your vow to me by disobeying me, that puts the disciple in a terrible situation. And he never did that. He gave the example, he gave the instruction, but he very seldom forced people to do it. What he said, they're supposed to do it because they have made the vow that they are disciple and they will do it. You see?
So this was 1974, apparently. Rupa Manjari was, Narayana Prabhu was asking, 1974.
Yeah, I was asking because we're trying to track down the first Guru Puja.
Yeah, this is 1974, so this is much later, I guess.
Somewhat later, maybe 2 years. Yeah. Much, in those much was like 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Now much is 20 to 30 years.
Right. Okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, let's continue.
Rupa Manjari, did you understand that clarification?
Yeah, I get it.
Great.
Okay, let's continue.
We can't even see the little piece of God, the soul. Otherwise, why would we be crying when some relative has died? And if we haven't seen a piece of God, how can we think that we can see God? I was standing right near the Vyasa-san, maybe 2 feet away, and fanning Prabhupada with a peacock feather fan all during the lecture. And I was simultaneously very happy and very disappointed. I was very happy because I realized that hearing Prabhupada there on the Vyasa-san was no different than hearing a tape recording of him. All that time I'd been listening to Prabhupada lectures on tapes, I'd been with him, hearing him, and I felt so happy and so satisfied. But I had wanted something different. I hadn't wanted it to be just the same as a tape recording. I had wanted to get to know Prabhupada, the person. A few hours later, my father, my husband, and I went into Prabhupada's room. And right before us, Srila Prabhupada was speaking to a reporter, which is what you're seeing here. He was very much joking, very congenial, very relaxed. Right after the reporters left, then my father, my husband, and I were introduced. At that point, Prabhupada leaned back on the cushion, and he had one of his legs up, and his dhoti was such that you could see his calves and his lotus feet. And I remember thinking how soft his skin was. It looked like a skin of a baby. And as the conversation began to unfold, I realized that here Krishna was fulfilling my desire to get to see Prabhupada as an individual person. When I was listening to him on the Vyasa-san, I was seeing him as the guru, as the acharya, and here I was seeing him as Prabhupada, the individual person. It was very, very sweet. This was the first time also that my father had met Srila Prabhupada. My father had been coming to the temple periodically since I joined. First, he introduced himself, but Prabhupada thought that my husband was my father's son. And then he understood that it was the daughter. He said, "Do you have any sons?" My father said, "No, only daughters." Prabhupada said, "Oh, only daughters." And then my father said, "I'm coming to this temple not because I want to see Krishna, but because I want to see my daughter and my son-in-law. Is that all right?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes. They are loving Krishna." And I was thinking, I don't love Krishna. He said chanting and dancing are symptoms of loving Krishna. And they are loving Krishna, and you are loving them. So 2 things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other.
Yeah.
Then my father said, "But I'm a Jew, and is it really all right that I come to the temple even though I'm Jewish?" Prabhupada said, "Yes. There can be many planes going to Chicago, but they have to know they are going to Chicago. Otherwise, what is the meaning of many planes? So there can be many religions, but they have to know what is the goal. The goal is to know God and to love Him. If you know that the goal is to know God and to love Him, then there can be many religions. After we walked out, my father turned to me and said, "Now I know why you've come to this Hare Krishna movement. That is a genuine holy man."
After
Amazing.
the Radha Damodar party, I went to the BBT library party, and we had the good fortune to have a darshan with Srila Prabhupada in Chicago. Mostly, of course, Satsrupa Maharaj, Mahabodhi, Ganesham. They had many points that they were taking up with Srila Prabhupada, and I was kind of sitting on the edge of things. But I had one question in my mind, and I waited for my chance. And then when there was a little lull, I raised my hand and Prabhupada called on me. My concern was often the professors wanted to know if these books will tell us about the ancient technology of Vedic India. Because at that time, a book had come out by Erich von Däniken called Chariot of the Gods. And there was reference in there to the Mahabharata and Puranas, that they were bimanas or airplanes or flying saucers or whatever they were described in these ancient Sanskrit texts. So I wanted to hear Prabhupada, what he would say about this. And I said, "Srila Prabhupada, many times the professors I meet, they ask me about Vedic technology." And Prabhupada hardly let those words get out of my mouth before he rapped the table with his knuckles. And he just said very shortly, "Vedic technology means Sri Guru Parampara." And that's all he said. But it was such a profound statement for me. It was an immediate instruction because, of course, I was asking the question impelled by all kinds of speculations going on in my mind. I had actually read that book, Chariot of the Gods, just to, find out more what these professors were talking about. So, my mind had been drifting in orbit. And Prabhupada just brought me right down to earth. Vedic technology means Sri Guru Parampara, and I meditated on
Ramachandra? Hello?
We
Yes,
froze.
this is Suhotra Swami speaking.
Yeah, are we going to have a Zoom call tonight?
Sure. Let's stop the video.
Well, I don't know what amount of the, right now it's almost 9 o'clock. So we've been doing the Zoom call. We've been doing the videos for over half an hour.
Yeah, let's start.
But you're in charge, so you tell me what's happening.
Mahaprabhu, is this satisfactory? We can go to the emails now that we have been getting. Is that okay?
Absolutely. My question is, what's a Magawabad? Magawabad.
Oh, Mahaprabhu is asking, what is a Mahabhagavat?
Oh, Mahabhagavat.
Yes.
Maha is like Mahaprabhu. Maha means great. The biggest edition of something, like a king. Maharaj means he's the biggest king.
Maha.
Raj means king, Maharaj. Mahabhagavat means the highest person who studies the nature of Krishna. Bhagavat, it comes from the word Bhagavan. Bhagavan is Krishna, the supreme controller of everything.
How do you spell that? Bhagavat.
I'm sorry, Bhagavat?
It's spelled Bhagavat. Bhagavat.
Bhagavat.
Yeah.
Mahabhagavat.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mahabharata, yeah. Okay, so let me load the email, then we'll have the Istagosthi.
I like these videos like anything, but we have to take into account people are expecting us to have Istagosthi.
Yes,
meaning
you're right.
a encounter of ideas, even a clash of ideas, but not just listening, which is
So
perfect.
I've learned that we must do our best and Krishna will compensate.
Maybe he won't compensate. He still have
Maybe.
to do
Well, it's hard to say, but he doesn't have to compensate. If you do your best, that is compensation. If you do your best, then you've taken shelter of Krishna. Just remember, that's what one of the conversations was in these tapes.
Even if we fall short.
We do fall short. The kanista adhikari means making a lifestyle out of falling short. It's not like being a good Christian or good Catholic or good Jew. In Krishna consciousness, we fall short if we are short of being a pure devotee of the Lord in the kingdom of God. Jesus kept hinting at such things, but he said, you're not ready to hear about it. He said that very plainly, unless that was a bogus quote, of course. But if it's a genuine quote, he said, so many things I have to show you, but you're not ready to see them yet. So we are falling short. That is what we do, is fall short. When you stop falling short, you're becoming the Madhyamadikari. And when you're no longer falling short at all, is when you're like Prabhupada and Uttama Adhikari. Where we're stuck now with ISKCON is unfortunately that the temples are promoting people that are not, who are also, they are falling short, but that's how they manage to try to keep people in line, is by turning them into sacred Boy Scout leaders of some sort to keep people in line. But you can have the Boy Scout leader without making him into a mystical object. The real object is pure devotional service. That means Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Keep going, Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna. One more question. Guru Puja. Guru Puja.
Puja means worship.
Okay.
Or a process of worshiping. A puja means you do something formal or even informal, but you do something special to worship your guru. So if you're there, if you don't have anything, you could have incense, or you could have flowers and offer the flowers to your guru. They do this in the temple, but if the guru is there in person, the guru puja could be even just offering a flagon of water or a sweet. The puja means you are worshiping, offering to the guru.
And the guru is the priest?
No, the guru is Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
No, the priest is not the guru. That's the whole problem going on in ISKCON now, is that the guru is not on the level of Prabhupada. And as a result, you can't really do, I suppose they do guru puja for these people that are perceived to be gurus, but it's not acceptable by Krishna. Krishna does not accept it, and Prabhupada does not accept it.
Got it.
Because it's not the real thing.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's discuss this. This email that you sent, Narayan Prabhu. Where's our best reader? Our best reader is in the house.
Rupa.
Which one is this?
Yes, this is essay to give us clarity and strength.
Okay, should we resist stupidity or lies? Truth is spread in two ways: positive or direct ways of support, and negative is through ways of opposition. Truth cannot be adequately
I didn't write
identified.
this. Oh, this is a quote.
Yes.
Oh, this
Quote
is
from
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
Yes.
I'm sorry, could you start all over again, Rupa Manjari?
Truth is spread in two ways, positive or direct ways of support, and negative is through ways of opposition. Truth cannot be adequately identified through positive ways alone. Propaganda through methods of opposition can expose the form and glory of truth more brighter in this world than the presentation of positive aspects. In the current controversial age, the one and only positive method cannot be the most effective method of propaganda. A negative method that tries to distinguish between truth and falsehood in all forms. So that method is considered better for addressing the unimaginable importance of ultimate truth directly. If a devoted preacher of truth wants to be a loyal servant of the Lord, it is a requirement he cannot honestly avoid. This method guarantees an atmosphere of debate in which it is easy to lose balance of one's senses. But the pathways of misleading Maya power are so complicated that the bound soul cannot avoid the witchcrafted nets to cover the destruction of her aspirant victims until their malicious nature is fully exposed. This is a sacred duty for all who have been able to get a far-off glimpse of the ultimate truth.
Wow, this is from the Harmonist, June 1st, 1927.
Wow.
There's another part to it. Yeah.
You sent this, so what was
I thought there was well, it seems to be when you want to, when a soldier, he knights him with a sword. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is knighting us to correct these things that need to be corrected. Were you able to follow it closely?
No, I was not able to follow very closely.
Okay, if I could would you like me to read it this time?
Yes. Can you explain also when you read it, because
yes, I'll make a point of it.
Yeah.
And so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, and I thought this was an amazing theme. Should we resist stupidity or lies? And he writes, truth is spread in two different ways. Positive or direct ways of support, and negative is through ways of opposition.
Okay, what is an example of this? Can we, this first sentence, so I can understand. Truth is spread in two ways, positive or direct ways of support, and negative is through ways of opposition.
Well, he hasn't revealed that yet. Why don't we read the next line and see what happens?
Okay.
Truth cannot be adequately identified through positive ways alone. Let's say, I will now interrupt the reading.
Yes.
No. Let's say that you can preach the truth, but if you're preaching the truth and people are misunderstanding and misinterpreting it, or even opposing it in their minds, you've spoken the truth, but you've not accomplished the task of convincing the other party. If convincing the other party is the trick. Okay, now he says, can it be adequately identified through positive ways alone? Propaganda through methods of opposition can expose the form and glory of truth more brighter in this world than the preservation of positive aspects. So what he's saying is find the problem before presenting the solution. Just presenting the solution is just like making a cake and then putting a frosting on it. It doesn't really deal with the real world. So he says to go through this world, the current controversial age, which is Kali Yuga, the only and only positive method cannot be the most effective method of propaganda. A negative method that tries to distinguish between truth and falsehoods in all forms, so that method is considered better for addressing the unimaginable importance of ultimate truth directly. So what he's saying is, you preach, you work by exposing the problem, not simply speaking the good news. You expose the problem and then conquer the problem with the positive, but this is what he says. Okay, the ultimate truth directly.
So would a negative method be like addressing a problem in the world, like that kind of negative, or negative in the sense of...
Yes, I think that's what he's talking about. You see the problem, you don't just say, chant Hare Krishna, you say there is a problem of people sinking into the depths of the influence of Kali Yuga and becoming more sinful by the hour, by the minute, by the day. And you can start to reveal. A devoted preacher of truth wants to be a loyal servant of the Lord. It is a requirement he cannot honestly avoid. That's a very powerful statement, wouldn't you say? We have to remember the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was extremely cryptic. He could make one or two a phrase, and in that phrase, more information than you could get out of chapters of other people's books. The reason I'm hesitating is it's hard for me to read this. If a devotee wants to be a loyal servant, it is requirement he cannot honestly avoid. Okay. This method guarantees an atmosphere of debate in which it is easy to lose balance of one's senses. Now that is essentially the potential for Istagosthi, the debate. And
yes,
depending on how steady you are in your understanding, you may lose balance of your senses. But the pathways of misleading Maya power are so complicated that the bound soul cannot avoid the witchcraft nets to cover the destruction of her aspirant victims until their malicious nature is fully exposed. Well, I mean, have you ever tried speaking to a Kanistha Adhikari who thinks he's enlightened or being enlightened, but actually is speaking directly as his body? That is what he's talking about here too. Not just that. The pathways of misleading, what an amazing statement, right? But the pathways of misleading Maya power are so complicated that the bound soul cannot avoid the witchcraft's nets. What is the witchcraft's nets? This is Maya, illusion. These witchcraft nets cover the mind of the philosopher, of Immanuel Kant, of Socrates, of Plato. All these persons are great philosophers, great thinkers, great understanders of core truths, but they themselves are struggling within the witchcraft nets that are covering the destruction of the aspirant claims. And then until the malicious nature is fully exposed. Well, what is that malicious nature? You could say, well, Immanuel Kant, the great Western philosopher, was drinking alcohol and eating meat, flesh. What about the Greek philosophers? Very few of them, if any, were vegetarian. So how did they manage? They managed to direct their minds towards very measurable truths. without escaping from the witchcraft. What does he say here?
Nets.
Witchcrafted.
Yeah, the witchcrafted nets to cover the destruction of her aspirant victims until the malicious nature is fully exposed. So when you're dealing with philosophers, Gyanis, and look at what Bhaktisiddhanta was dealing with. He was dealing with all sorts of impersonalists, yogis, and particularly smarta Brahmins. They're all caught up in Maya, expressing their Maya as supreme absolute truth. So he's really trying to expose what it is that their trap is. And that trap is to witchcrafted nets to cover the destruction of our aspirant. Aspirant means looking up, victims until the malicious nature is fully exposed. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did with the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And that's what he did every time he came across Mayavadis. They are all enlightened up to a point, as are Christians, as are Jews, as are Muslims, as are everybody, in you and me and everyone, enlightened up to a point. The method guarantees an atmosphere of debate in which it is easy to lose balance of one's senses. And that's an interesting factor because the greatest philosophers, like suppose when Nimai Pandit, we were listening to the Chaitanya Bhagavat, when or Chaitanya was busy arguing with the greatest minds of his day, he could argue up one side and down the other. So then Bhaktisiddhanta says it's easy to lose balance of one's senses. But the pathways of misleading Maya power are so complicated that the bound soul cannot avoid the witchcrafted nets to cover the destruction of her aspirant victims. Did he say that twice?
No.
No. How did we get to this?
You repeated it.
Oh, okay. Nature's many times, actually. This is a sacred duty for all who have been able to get a far-off glimpse of the ultimate truth.
Yes.
Yes. So the sacred duty means if you are talking with Nimai Pandit and you're using all this Nyayak philosophy, this way and that way stuff, but if you begin to see inside, there's a truth which all this wrangling and mental speculation and cleverness and grammatical perfection cannot perfect, cannot achieve it. Then you have a far-off glimpse of the ultimate truth. Amazing, huh?
Yeah, it is amazing.
So what's that next section? Should we be opposing the nonsense or asatya? Asatya, asat means unreal, ya means of the nature of unreal or unrealness.
Okay. No, you want to read or Rupa Manjari Prabhu can read?
Sure. He's writing another practically duplicate essay here. Sure, Rupa, read it.
Should we be opposing the nonsense or asatya? The truth satya is propagated in a twofold way, viz. Positively or by the method of direct support, and negatively by the method of opposition. The truth cannot be made sufficiently known by the positive method alone. Propaganda by the method of opposition, more than the presentation of the positive aspect, brings about more brilliantly in this world the appearance and glorification of the truth. The positive method by itself is not the most effective mode of propaganda in a controversial age like the present. The negative method, which seeks to differentiate the truth from non-truth in all its forms, is even better calculated to convey the directly inconceivable significance of the absolute. It is a necessity which cannot be conscientiously avoided by the dedicated preacher of the truth if he wants to be loyal servant of Godhead. The method is sure to create an atmosphere of controversy in which it is quite easy to lose one's balance of judgment. But the ways of the deluding energy are so intricate that unless their mischievous nature is fully exposed, it is not possible for the soul in the conditioned state to avoid the snares spread by the enchantress for encompassing the ruin of her only two willing victims. It is a duty which shall be sacred to all who have been enabled to obtain even a distant glimpse of the absolute.
Jai.
Well, are you wondering why I wanted to post that to you? Perhaps?
No.
You're not interested.
No, I said why. I don't know why you sent it. So you were asking that.
Oh, because if we're going to conquer over the mischievous influence of Maya Devi that has overtaken the devotees of Krishna in the Kanistha Adhikari platform in the form of GBC and concocted initiators, we have to be able to approach it not just positively, but also from the inside out. Now, when I say negative, I don't mean standing there thumbing our noses, jumping up and down and shrieking, bogus gurus, bogus gurus. That accomplishes less than nothing, right?
Yeah, that
all it does is make us into fools in their eyes without improving our point even slightly. But if we are able to deconstruct the arguments that they have used to establish themselves, that is the negative path. We can't just say, you're speaking that, but that's not the real truth. The real truth is this. And we can say that it is what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada did not speak non-truth. Just like I was saying to that Jewish guy that didn't show up again. David, that's his name?
David Hickey.
What?
David Hickey.
David Ziggy. Yes. So I said, if you want, why not ask your wife who wants to take initiation from who?
Vaisheshika.
Vaisheshika. Why don't you ask why don't you ask Vaisheshika Prabhu how it is possible for you to try to offer initiation to people when you are in strict and complete disobedience of the written and spoken word of your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. And if he says, what on earth are you talking about? He said those books cannot be changed, and you're selling only books that have been changed. So how can you represent yourself as representative of the Acharya if you cannot obey the direct order that you were given by the Acharya? And if you say, because they'll kick me out and won't let me be a guru or be a temple president of ISKCON or anything, if I uphold that, then I say, so you have a political reason for disobeying your spiritual master. You don't want to get kicked out. Well, I admire you for knowing the truth, if indeed you do, but at the same time, the fear of getting kicked out should not be the overweening reason of a person to do the wrong thing that he knows is wrong because he has read in all the books that he's distributed that books cannot be changed. What do you think?
Jai.
Okay, so does that sound as though we're approaching the negative within the positive and the positive within the negative?
Yes.
Now, if you want to get into any other things that I posted, some of the things that I wrote, you'll see where I'm exactly exposing from the negative.
Okay, let me
Without-
load that screen up. Okay, let me load that thing up.
I said a bunch of them, so I don't know which I'm going to load, but I'm pretty much pursuing the thought of exposition, not simply truthful affirmation. I think what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was suggesting is that we affirm the truth by exposing the lie, not just telling the truth, which of course is a more polite way of doing it.
All right, so I'm loading the next message from. All right, so anyone who's watching this, they can send us questions too. So, right, and then we can answer them on video, and they can participate also.
And they can also, if they want, message me with things they say. I can answer them, then it can be discussed on this Zoom.
Yes, so this is what we're gonna looking at.
I'm taking the habit of doing that.
You seen this one? Help
this
Hindus.
one's okay, yes.
Yeah, help Hindus return to their actual name of Sanatan Dharma. This one is posted by.
I'll say, why not read what she said first? It's above it.
This is Gauradas. Who's this Gauradas? Let me see.
Oh, no, the Gauradas. Well, isn't there a statement above it, or is that the top?
Content is available.
Okay, go ahead, then just go ahead.
So, Nathan Zakain, Narayan Vishwakarma Prabhu pranams. I like all of your points except, what do you mean by, quote, no more Hindus? Srila Prabhupada said, they are our greatest allies. Since so many of the original 5,000 disciples of Srila Prabhupada were discouraged or chased away from ISKCON by many of the 11 zonals, if it wasn't for the Hindus, would all of Prabhupada's temples still be standing? So you wrote a response, Narayan Prabhu. Can you maybe read it?
Well, how about have Rupa Majori read it? My voice is sort of harsh.
Yes. Rupa Prabhu?
My response. Hindu is a Muslim word forced onto the burnt remnants of the Varnashram Dharma that ended 5,000 years ago. Hindu is the N-word of the Indian religion. It is the name of the...
You know what N-word is referring to.
Everyone knows that, at least in America.
It is the name of the subjugated persons whose broken dharma could not prevent the invasion of the Mughal emperors who remained for a huge period of time. In Bengal, the saintly last name of Chakravarti was mocked when those of that name became servants of the British, who changed that sacred name to Chatterjee, and another changed to Banerjee, etc. The same polytheistic people known as Hindus can revert to their original designation as Sanatan Dharma, except because of their collapse into polytheism, Sanatan Dharma no longer applies to them. There was no separate worship of demigods such as Shiva, Durga, Kali, Saraswati in pre-Mughal times. The demigods were part of a solid pantheon of Vaishnava Varnashram Vedic structure. That structure became weak and demigods became sole objects of worship, thus denigrating the greatness of Bharatvarsha. Therefore, give up the ridiculous and shameful name of Hindu and embrace the Shaktivish avatar holy name of the Mahamantra, and give up the shame of so many years of subjugation to the Muslim Mughals.
Guy, this was Gauradas, huh? You replied to him. Did he ever respond back?
Not yet. I just sent that off like yesterday or today.
Okay, so let's give it some time.
Yes, but you see, I am trying to re-sanctify those who call themselves Hindus by taking them out of the N-word category and putting them into the Sanatana Dharma category, which they can attain by becoming devotees of Krishna. I didn't make that fully clear at the end, but that the holy name of Krishna is a Shaktivish avatar, and by chanting that Shaktivish avatar, you can restore yourselves as Sanatana Dharma, and thereby purify everything you've kept of the Vedic culture in your families as quote unquote Hindus. That's all not wasted. It's not bad. It's not evil. It is a sort of like keeping a box of your grandmother's lace or your saris or something of that sort in a box, and you take it out and show it to your kids every once in a while, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren. But in the end, you can regain all of that by accepting the Sanatana Dharma of the holy name of Krishna.
Jai.
Aye.
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, that's the difficulty. I mean, I look at this local devotees who are mostly comprised of so-called devotees, but they come from the Hindu background, and you know, they're being smashed all this time, and now the GBC is doing a similar thing to them. Or
they listen to them, but they also milk them for money.
Yes.
Because they know that Hindus are trained to give to the priest, to the temple, like that. And that's a very nice thing to be trained to do. But now we're saying, not as Hindus, Sanatana Dharma, regained. If you're going to take initiation in ISKCON, say you want to be initiated not as a Hindu, but as Sanatana Dharma. And if you're really smart, you will say, I don't really need to be initiated. I am descended from Sanatana Dharma, and the holy name of Krishna is a Shaktivish avatar. Therefore, I do not see anyone in this room, guru or so-called guru or not, who is a Shaktivish avatar. Therefore, I can take the initiation from the holy name himself. Directly.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's why our local congregation is struggling to identify with being a Hindu or whatever.
So when that person says that Prabhupada spoke highly of the Hindus and stuff like that, yes, he would speak highly of anybody that was highly favorable to Krishna consciousness movement. Not because he's a hypocrite, but because anyone who supports the Krishna consciousness movement transcends whoever they were to begin with. I mean, if you're a Hindu and you give money for the deities, that transcends Hindu. And it actually touches on Sanatana Dharma. So I think what we need to do amongst the Hindus is maybe even create a small paper saying it is time for those born at Bharat Varsa to let go of the Muslim turned Hindu and accept the original glorious designation of Sanatana Dharma, particularly those who take shelter of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. You see, in other words, make it an attractive notion to give up Hindu in exchange for Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma sounds better anyhow, doesn't it?
Yes, much better.
But people can say oh, I'm a Hindu from Fiji. Well, if you are a Hindu from Fiji, then you probably are a Hindu from Fiji. But do you want to become a devotee of Krishna and in the line of Srila Prabhupada? Then accept your role now as Sanatana Dharma, not Hindu, and go amongst the Hindus and say, it's like when Prabhupada made life members. He went out and he suggested to the people they could become life members. They give 1,111 rupees, which back then was like $1,000. And bit by bit, it became a madness. So that if people didn't identify themselves as Hindus, they identified themselves as life members.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so supposing a guy then finally fights on the idea of Sanatana Dharma, and he goes to a festival or something of that sort, holy festival or something of that sort with his relatives, and they're all having a good time. He said, and he said, "Oh yeah, so how does your Hindu beliefs fit with Krishna consciousness?" He said, "Well, I no longer call myself Hindu because Hindu is an artificial term. I have been blessed by the opportunity to regain the title of Sanatana Dharma. And I would very much like for all of you to do that as well."
Right.
Why do we want to be still, we're in America after thousands of years, why are we still groveling at the name Hindu, which is a Muslim term? It's just like black people saying, oh yeah, I'm a darky. Well, they didn't create the word darky, but they kept it for a long time, even after, in the 20th century. They would say darkies. They call each other darkies. Why? Because that's what they've been come to believe. They were reduced to calling each other. So that is why I look at the word Hindu. It's not dignified.
Mm.
The dignity is in Sanatana Dharma, but I pointed out in that little essay thing that the unfortunate fact is the Hindus can't just automatically call themselves Sanatana Dharma because they're polytheist now. Oh, I'm a Durga Sanatana Dharma. Oh, I'm a Shiva Sanatana Dharma. Oh, I'm a Vishnu Sanatana Dharma. I'm a Kali Sanatana Dharma. You can't do it. You can't do it. Sanatana Dharma means all the demigods and Krishna are arrayed like a giant tapestry or mural, showing where each and every one of them is in relationship to each and every other one of them. And otherwise people become totally convinced. Oh, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the Indians, they act as though the only knowledge they have of their own religion is from the British. Why do you say Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva? Oh, the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. Yes, but you know that Shiva exists elsewhere, that Brahma doesn't, and that Vishnu is in your heart. Like British didn't tell us that in Sunday school. So it's time to lift this blanket of utter shame. It's like the Indian people have been living under a ragged wool, urine-soaked blanket for thousands of years in the name of Hindu, or a couple, almost 2,000 years in the name of Hindu. Why do you clutch it around? What's the only blanket I have? What is it called? Hindu. The blanket is called, but it doesn't smell good. That's the best I can do. No, take it off. Dance in ecstasy. As what Prabhupada said, dance like Lord Chaitanya, not like hip hop.
Yes.
That's too radical.
I like radical.
I know you like radical. I read every once in a while one of your little sayings that I think you think I'm not going to see. No bogus gurus. And you go rush out the door with your fingers in your ears.
Okay.
We got bigger fish to fry.
Yes. Jai. Yeah, this is the best way to do it. I mean, I invited these Sacramento people to have a discussion, but you can see they act like Hindus.
So let's have a different discussion. What you can do is we can start talking about Sanatana Dharma versus Hindu in just a one-page document and hand it to them. Why do you think of yourselves as Hindu? Oh, that's a question. The devotees who become, the Hindus who become devotees, or do they think? Tough question.
What did you say? It's breaking up. No, improve. Maybe it's my connection. What did you say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I say, those like the Fiji devotees,
yes,
who have taken initiation from one of the ISKCON gurus, when they're amongst their fellow Fijians, do they still think and speak of themselves as Hindus? Could you hear that?
Yeah. Well, they don't speak like Hindus, but they act like it, So,
what do they call themselves?
They identify with Srila Prabhupada's movement, Vaishnavism, and many of them have these initiated gurus, but they don't act like that on that platform. They run away, meaning any heavy discussions.
No, I'm just wondering, when they're with their family, do their family and they consider that they're still Hindus or not?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask them.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. Because they may think I'm a Hindu and I've added my spiritual name from my beloved Guru Maharaj, who is going to, like Bhagavan, I will take you back to Godhead. Well, if the holy name of Krishna is actually a Shaktish avatar, then if you teach a person to chant Hare Krishna, then they are back to Godhead. In principle. Are they in their rasa with Krishna? And the question is, well, have they developed their rasa with Krishna?
Mm-hmm.
If you've developed your rasa with Krishna and you and Krishna are in a loving exchanges in Krishna Loka, then the answer is yes. If you're still working on it and you're still acting and thinking and acting as though you're your body, even though you have heard the holy name, even though you have a spiritual name, well, not yet. Do we have time to read another one of those things?
Yes, Narayan. Let me load it up. 1 second.
Yeah, I sent one just as the meeting began also.
Okay. Let me load it up. Okay, let me see. Where is it? Once the meeting began, do you know what you titled it? Cow protection? Is it feeling like? No. You sent it 8:53 essay. I read the latest one you sent, the one at 8:53. Cow protection. We're not
cow
sure.
Protection. Well, do you want to use that one? Varnashram Dharma is good. Well, that is Varnashram Dharma.
Yeah.
And there were some before also.
Do you know which one? Because
okay, why not read this one? Rupa Manjari has them all now too, so she can tell you which ones they are. I think I sent 2 or 3 of them today. Well, do you want to read the one about cow protection?
yes, so we can read that one. Cow protection, part 2. You okay. Cow protection, part 2.
Now the regular type is the lady. I think it's a lady who wants to protect five people that want to protect some cows.
Okay.
And she talks about it there.
All right, let me load it up. Okay. All right, we got about 20 minutes. There we go. Got this thing shared.
You know, this is in reverse. Do you think I can go back into that email and whiten out the background and blacken out the letters from the top of these?
Yeah, that will be better because it's hard to see, right?
Well, yeah, a little bit. So, you know, can Rupa Manjari read it? Well, read the type at the top. Okay. There, yeah.
Nice message about Varnashram and no more Hindus. But we also need to integrate aspects. What aspects are part of Varnashram? Why we need 2,000 person community to be protected by mother cows? Okay, that was the lady's. Rupa?
Why don't you read it?
Okay, I'll read it. Okay. Who else is our mother?
Who else is our mother?
Yes. Who else is our mother? Question mark.
You don't want to read it, Rupa?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Jai.
Daivavarnashram is a way of feeding whole sections of human society when the increasing tendency towards social enslavement increases over time. With Daivavarnashram, as described in my earlier text, everyone works according to their ability and receives according to their need. While I fully respect keeping cows safely as domestic animals, doing so will not solve the problem of human existence as Kali Yuga progresses. As representatives of Lord Chaitanya and following the clearly stated mandates of Srila Prabhupada, it is our dharmic duty to provide a future for the survival of the human race without animal slaughter or exploitation of one human being by another human being. You need to start with the land. As the time goes on and the farming industry collapses more and more, land will eventually be there for the taking. Right now, we need to conceptualize and refine the concept so that when disaster does strike, and hopefully before, we are fully prepared to create the progressive development of Daivavarnashram communities. 2,000 people can occupy 2,000 fertile and well-aquified land. Of course, to begin with, one might need to start on that size land with even less than 100 people with the clear vision of the Varnashram Dharma to come. But with all land, buildings, resources, cows, fabrics, etc., owned by Lord Jagannath, it will not be difficult to expand rapidly once the format has been established. With your 5-member community, how will you prevent marauders from attacking your ashram, killing and roasting your cows, and harming the women and children? If you have kshatriyas, they can defend the periphery of your Varnashram community. As soon as hunger and poverty sets in, segments of human society will feel entitled to rob, pillage, and kill to get what they feel they require. Just see wonderful Seattle Portland, Chicago, as well as many other formerly peaceful cities now feeling entitled to rob, murder, shoplift, etc., with no fear of punishment or even jail time? And who can provide a limitless supply of Jagannath Prasadam for the community members at all times of the day unless you have a lot more than 5 members? Hope that this helps.
Try.
So you see, Rupa is gradually moving towards understanding the concept of what is not abstract, but practical.
Right.
And I hope you live long enough for me to get it completed. I'm doing it for you.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else, Prabhus?
Well, why not discuss some of the points in there?
Okay.
We've got 15 more minutes.
Yes, so you replied to someone who wanted to keep 5 cows or something like that, or what was the background with this?
5 people that wanted to keep some cows.
Where was this in?
That's in a previous email.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So these people are in America, or where are they? In India?
I have no idea. They're not in India.
Okay. So they must be in the USA, okay.
Is Mahaprabhu there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What do you think about this idea for protecting cows?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah. Why slaughter them when they will give you their milk just the way your mother gave milk when you were a baby?
I just can't understand that.
Yeah, it's harder to understand as time goes by.
They're mammals like we are.
Yeah, exactly.
And they have feelings like we do.
Yeah.
Even more so in many cases.
Right.
If you've ever seen a cow separated from her calf weeping, it is a sight which is almost unbearable to have witnessed.
It's a very sad material world.
Well, but Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Radharani, has come to make it a triumphantly joyful world. But we have to stop beating ourselves up. And say, we are beating ourselves up saying we're being beaten up by Maya, which is, of course, in a sense true. But we're doing the beating. Maya doesn't have to lift a finger.
So we're beating ourselves up.
Yes, of course. If the human race suddenly turned around, read that little paragraph or sentence or a few sentences that I wrote there and said, let's do it, how long would their misery be in existence?
Not long.
Be transformed. Magically, it could be transformed overnight. Now, from Rupa Manjari likes the idea of once dedicated to the cow protection Dharma Vinasham program. So when you have the cows being protected, they will give more milk than they would if they're just being kept as a vegetarian milk production company.
What about the pigs? What about the pigs, the goats, the rabbits?
The pigs? Well, we don't need to cultivate pigs. They seem to cultivate themselves. Rabbits do. Goats, they can be part of it. But the point is that we can select the association of animals, like horses are good transportation and pulling coaches and chariots and wagons. Oxen pull wagons very effectively with huge loads on them. I've seen that in India. So we concentrate on what works for the human survival. And the human survival, we're not just out to protect every ferret and every mongoose that exists. We don't interfere with them. We don't stop them. We don't make a process of killing them all. But we do cultivate animals that are, what is it called? With a synergy for human existence. With humans and animals that have synergy, like cows, bulls, oxen, those ones we particularly cultivate. And the cow, Mahaprabhu, is known as one of the 7 mothers. So 7 mothers, does anyone know the mothers? There's the Ramachandra, knows them all?
Yes, one is the mother, your mother, our mother, material body mother. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mother Earth,
Mother Earth,
wife of the
and
guru,
wife of the guru,
nurse, cow.
How many is that?
That's 6.
I think that the first mother isn't the birth mother, but the mother like Prakriti, perhaps, the all-encompassing female principle in the universe. But I could be wrong. Okay, so does that make some sense, Mahaprabhu Prabhu?
Yes, sir.
So,
Hare Krishna.
So we can have a dog, a cat. We have to have a house with our mother, father, dog, cat, whatnot, rabbits, and all those things, pigs. But we don't treat the pig like our mother, unless, of course, we're piglets. But I'm assuming we're humans. We don't treat the pig like the mother. We treat our mother, our physical human mother, as a mother. And then these other mothers. So then one of the 7 mothers is the cow. Why? Because she gives milk and asks for nothing in return, really. If there's grass growing wild, you don't have to buy her bales of hay and sacks of oats or chop up corn for her to chew on. You don't need any of that. All you need is for her to graze. And as she grazes, the hump on her back produces oxides of, what is it, Rupa?
Copper, gold and copper oxides.
Yeah. And what do? They go down into the plants and the soil. So all the creatures in the soil that interface with the plants, like earthworms, will keep the soil tilled as though they had plows, which they only have their little tummies instead of plows. All of these things become empowered and enriched until the earth itself becomes practically edible because it's so rich. And this is done without human endeavor. You don't have to go out digging somewhere and planting somewhere, start a factory for phosphates. Everything needed for the soil comes from the cow. Everything we need comes from the cow. Milk, butter. And then we take milk and make it into yogurt, Shrikant, milk sweets. And the butter, we take the cream and churn the cream until the cream separates from the butter. And so the buttermilk of Vedic buttermilk is far richer than Western buttermilk. And Indian butter, Desi cow butter, not just Desi cow butter, but butter harvested the way they do in India is far richer than the butter of our factory farms. So everything we eat that's good, like cheese and butter and yogurt and sour cream, is all tainted with torture. That's why people are becoming vegans, because the more sensitive they become, the more they become attuned to the fact that the milk products are coming from tortured animals that are slaughtered in the end. And because of that, they refuse. They want the cow to become extinct. They want the cows to go back and become whatever they were before and live in the forest or something. But we have a better idea. We worship the cow as our mother. That takes the cow into a whole, and the animal kingdom into a whole interactive range that you cannot experience by reading books on farm culture or dairy farming. They will not teach you how the cow is your mother. They'll teach you how the cow is your product. And you make it give milk, you make it give calves, then you kill it and eat it. That is too horrible to contemplate. I was raised that way, and many, many people were, to kill the cow. Fortunately, Prabhupada one time said to someone about me when I was present, oh, he comes from a good farm family. And I couldn't help but blurt out later, but Srila Prabhupada, we didn't have cows, we had goats. And he said, that is all right. But then I began to realize later, we were killing the goats and eating them. Imagine if we'd been killing cows and eating them. So being raised on a goat farm, even though goats are not pious as cows, it was a wonderful thing because we didn't kill and eat the cows. Oh, well.
Okay, Jai, we got 6 minutes.
Okay. So Rupa Manjari, can you make any comment about what I wrote about the Varnashram Dharma? Real quick.
Sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now.
Okay, why not make it an eloquent blank and say what all the many words contained in that blank? Well, did you like the distinction of that we're not cow protection, we're protected by cows?
It's true.
Yeah, Prabhupada always referred to cow protection. But the thing is, he gave us the seeds, we plant them, and seeds, so when you plant seeds, seeds don't come out of the ground. Green leaves come out of the ground, and then they produce things, and they produce fruits, flowers, trees, apples, or whatever from the seeds. And then you have a more complicated statue. So I don't feel any badness about saying that we are protected by cows, because that's the natural evolution of cow protection.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't think Prabhupada would object to that phrase, that we're protected by cows. But how could he talk about it back then? He couldn't even talk about it to his own damned disciples. Mm-hmm. He went on the morning walk from that book, the Varnashram book, Dharma Varnashram book, making Vrindavan, or what's it called? Not making Vrindavan. Prabhupada on cow protection, I think. And he said that we can go to Gitanagari right now and we'll create the Varnashram Dharma. And he could have. Because if he'd gone there, he could have created, as he tried to do in Vrindavan, he told the people, just live in the existing structures. Don't make fancy structures for yourselves. Live quiet. And there's what we're living. One of the structures was a pigsty. Another one was a cow barn. Another, that sort of devotees ended living close to the earth, and it all belonged to Vrindavan. Nobody owned anything, except I agree with that he's an exception to the rule. So anyhow, we're approaching the 10 o'clock hour. Was that okay? And Ramachandra, could you look through the other, there's probably another half dozen things, and pick any, if you feel that any of them are worthy of presentation, let's present them. What I've made a policy for myself right now is I used to get people constantly inviting me to be friends with them and stuff like that. And then people, once they're friends, then they start sending messages. And the messages were normally sort of gag me with a spoon quality messages, like hi, or something like that, you know. Not even Hare Krishna. Nice to hear from you. And so I got really annoyed and I started writing essays. Every time they wrote it, I would write something about, with all of your waking moments, take the avatar known as the holy name of Krishna, broadcast it into every town and village, broadcast it into the root of every tree and into the twig of every blade of grass. That's why I started writing, because I'm just so annoyed at being said hi to, you know. And then every once in a while they write back saying, wow, that was amazing. So then I write something twice as amazing. And it's just, for me, it's like a sport. But then I began to realize with Facebook, I can actually broadly preach in many, many different ways.
Right, yes.
So, Rupa Manjari, are you there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just, for the first time in 5 years,